Hey everybody, welcome back to Harambe Talks. Normally we do a little intro, but today, without further intro, our guest, Peter Egan. Peter,
Hi,
thanks for
Eric.
joining
Hiya, how
us.
are you?
That's great. And just thank you so much for being on here today, and thank you for being part of the Harambe documentary.
Well, I have to tell you, it's a great, great honor for me to be a part of it. I think the documentary is absolutely superb. And I'm not just saying this, Eric, you've done the most remarkable job on it. I mean, you've made a very, very interesting documentary, but you've also presented the world with a wonderful portrait of a beautiful gorilla, this poor gorilla that is such a victim of society. And it's presented beautifully. You've done a great, great job. So I congratulate you. I'm proud to be a part of it.
I remember looking at those photographs Jeff took of him just sitting and looking into the camera. And I don't think I've ever seen a more beautiful study. With such strength and power that, of course, should have been living in the wild.
If you love an animal, how can you love seeing an animal in a zoo? And a zoo will say, well, it's great conservation, and you can, if this animal were not in this zoo, it may not survive, and it gives you the opportunity to see it up close. But I think that's a very poor excuse for imprisoning an animal for all of its life and for taking it out of its natural habitat and therefore destroying its natural instincts. And one of the things that I love about Harambe, if I can just kind of top on that, was something that Ian Redmond said, which I apply to all animals in the wild. He said the great thing about gorillas is that they are the gardeners of the forest, and that just their daily activity. Gorillas are the gardeners of the forest just by their very, very daily activity. And of course, that applies to all creatures that live in their natural habitat. That's why they are so important to the survival of the planet, because what they provide just by eating the plants that they eat, by sharing the society in which they live in, by disturbing the earth, by their manure contributing to the richness of the earth. There are so many things that creatures in the wild contribute to our wonderful planet that we just take for granted or don't even know about. And I just found that a wonderful image from Ian. And it's something that I see repeated with people who love elephants or hippos, or that they are all gardeners of the forest, and that's why we have to value them. So in terms of a zoo life for an animal, it's just such a corporate activity, basically, and it's shrouded in this bogus sense of one, compassion, and also the protection of the species, and conservation. And it's rubbish, basically, because what you're doing is you're taking a beautiful, magnificent specimen and imprisoning it, and in so doing, you're taking away all of its natural instincts, and you're also reducing the power of its contribution to the gene pool. So there are so many reasons why zoos are very bad for animals, and also bad for people who say, I love animals. To say that they love seeing them in zoos is a total oxymoron. The concept of zoos is such a corporate concept, and all of the goodwill in zoos are really related to how can we make as much money out of this product. I mean, the animals in captivity are regarded as products, I think, rather than sentient creatures. Because if one viewed their sentience in a holistic way, you would understand that you have taken a wonderful creature and put it in a totally unnatural environment, and all of its instincts are repressed and subverted, and it behaves in a totally non-conformist in terms of its own way of life way. It destroys, it breaks the spirit and destroys the animal, I think. And that's why you see, I mean, people go and they see an elephant swaying from side to side, thinking, oh, the elephant's just, shooting the breeze. What it's doing is it's representing stereotypic behavior, which is just, another step forward to actually being mad, really. So I'm completely opposed to zoos. I'm completely opposed to anything where animals are used as commodities or products to make money. But I'm all for sanctuaries if one has to keep an animal in any kind of confined space. I'm all for a sanctuary where, animals are then allowed to live as much as possible within a habitat that replicates a natural habitat, but they're there for a variety of reasons because they can't survive in the wild. So you recreate a habitat that is as close to it as possible, but you allow the animal to choose its own life rather than designing it for a public viewing, basically.
Yeah, the sanctuaries are so important to have all of the poor animals that get damaged, whether it's through tourism, the way that they're brought up, or snare traps, or so many. They have so many different things that they're facing. And I love the point you brought up about what Ian said about gardeners of the forest, because zoos are not only damaging the animals' minds, but they're actually destroying our ability to help climate change.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, every keystone species in a zoo is one that's not doing their job in the wild, and we're losing our biodiversity.
Yeah, and also, I mean, plus the fact that we, as the ace predator, are stealing habitat all the time, which is also destroying our climate as well. So we're horrible. As the ace predator, we're dreadful creatures. That's why we have to focus so completely on kindness, and something we've discussed about before, which I sort of call what is the word I used? Dimensioned compassion. That's compassion that isn't singular, that is compassion that exists on many levels. And I believe that we are all born with a natural gift of compassion and a natural love of animals and our environment. And that is conditioned out of us by, firstly, a carnivorous lifestyle, where a child will naturally play with, say, a rabbit, and having finished playing with the rabbit will go to mummy and say, "What's for dinner, mummy?" And mummy will say, "Rabbit, darling." And there is immediately this kind of division between what is a pet and what is food, and so often they cross over, because, as we know, with societies that eat dogs and cats and anything that moves, basically, there is no division between what is livestock and what is companion animal. Although even in those societies, I mean, and I've experienced them as you have, like in Indonesia and places where you will see a dog meat trader sitting with a dog on its lap, and then getting up and hooking a dog out of a cage and strangling it and torching it and cutting it up and cooking it. And you say to that person, "Would you eat the dog that's in your lap?" And they say, "No. If I want dog, I'll eat one of them in the cages." And so they immediately have a good example of a kind of singular compassion, a non-dimensioned compassion. And once you get involved with dimensioned compassion, and that is a compassion that embraces everything, then you can't make those distinctions. You decide that you have no right to eat any living creature, and that's precisely how I lead my life now, and I feel I feel uplifted every day that I have a meal, knowing that there is no death on the plate that I'm eating from, and that does feed my soul and ethically supports me every single day. Which is, and also, you know, you if you are a carnivore, every day you are eating something that has given its life just for you to have a momentary taste pleasure, and I think that's too big a price to pay for slaughter, basically.
Yeah, and you know, there's something really important that, I mean, you know, one of the things we clicked on right away is that we're both vegan, and it's not just you said it to me that it aligns your stomach and your heart.
Yes, absolutely. My
And
head and my heart, absolutely, totally. Yeah.
yes. And I love that. You know, I think more people, given the opportunity, and more people are starting to understand that it's something that's within their grasp. You know, veganism's gained a lot of support over the years, and it always is a bit conflicting when you run into people that work in animal rescue and are not vegan.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't get it. I mean, I often meet people who work for shelters and who rescue dogs and cats, and I wouldn't dream of eating a dog or a cat, but they will eat a suckling pig, or you know, a lamb, little babies, and they think nothing about it, and they then say, well, you don't have to be vegetarian or vegan to love animals. And I say, you're absolutely insane. It is essential that you are vegetarian or vegan, particularly vegan, if you even profess to love animals, because it means you will never, ever wish ill for them.
It comes into this fundamental problem we have of thinking that we are allowed to make these decisions for the animals, and to think
Yes.
of you know, to think that there's a pyramid and we're at the top as opposed to a circle that we're kind of on the side of. You know, Will Travers called it, if there is a triangle, it's the triangle of responsibility.
Yes.
You know, not dominance. And you know, and I think that hopefully Harambe movie and other movies like it that are coming out, and all the work that all these animal rights activists are doing and animal welfare activists are doing, is to push us towards a better future where we can think about treating animals in a different relationship,
Yes.
redefining our relationship maybe with nature.
What is interesting to me, and now, as you know, I spend a lot of time throughout the world, recently in Africa for the rhinos, and in Egypt for the donkeys, and I'm going to go to Africa again next year for the hippos. Is that when you see, as I did in Africa, an abandoned baby rhinoceros, as it was a week old, and within 24 hours, it was relating to the wonderful carer who was looking after this rhino, a woman called Simone in KwaZulu-Natal. The baby rhino was relating immediately to this woman as a maternal figure, and it created a bond within hours. And similarly, I've seen hippopotamuses with humans liking to be stroked, liking to be close up. Certainly, we've seen it with Jane Goodall and primates, and that there is this common bond that has no language, which is just purely to do with trust, kindness, compassionate emotion that translates into contact and defies all of the species in a way. I mean, I don't think that's a great invention necessarily, and I'm sure that scientists will have reasons for that. But I'm always surprised and amazed at how immediate these bonds are made with animals that we consider to be completely out of our reach. And, you know, you learn wonderful things about elephants. I think I saw the most remarkable documentary a little while ago about a herd of elephants who traveled for 2 weeks because they knew that the person who had rescued them when they were young was dying, and they wanted to pay their respects, and they actually traveled for 2 weeks and back to where this person was, and the person was dying, and they stayed until the person died, and they all paid tribute to that person. And you think, you know, where does that come from? You know, it is a natural, compassionate empathy that we all of us who live have that within us. And I think we do through our, much more so than animals, we human animals do it through conditioning so quickly. And I think that's got a huge amount to do with the fact that we are provided with animals on our plate to eat from a very young age. And that very action is when our compassion starts to corrode and diminish, because we then start viewing animals in a different way, apart from the dog who's sitting by our foot or lying on our foot, and we never consider eating that animal. But all of the animals that we do consider eating, it does destroy our compassionate membrane, I think.
You know, you had mentioned to me earlier, and it always has stayed with me, that we teach children the selective compassion, this idea that eat one, love one, through a lot of early child nursery rhymes and a lot of early child fables. I wanted to ask you about that a little bit. Which ones kind of popped to mind?
For me, well, I mean, you could. Well, the people say that there are more than 9 ways to skin a cat, or you know, a bird in hand is worth 2 in the bush, or you know, we refer to behavior as, oh, he behaves like a dog. You know, in my experience, dogs behave beautifully. You know, they're the most wonderful creatures. And why should it be there are more than 9 ways to skin a cat? I mean, why isn't it there are more than 9 ways to solve a puzzle? You know, I mean, they are just easy images that we kind of associate with an inferior species because we eat them. And it all goes back to that. But, you know, but again, you know, I sometimes despair with it. I was watching a documentary about a wonderful part of Africa the other day that is a coastal community, and they live on fish, of course, you know, and there's no other answer for them in where they live and how they can live and what is there on offer for them. And there is this, there are tons of fishermen going out at night, and they come back and they have shed loads of fish, and of course that's how they exist. And I think, well, how on earth does one go say to them, look, can you not try something else? You know, and it's up to us, you know, to supply alternatives. But then people will say, I love eating fish. I don't want to give up eating fish. And fish have no feelings. And of course, fish do have feelings. And so it just touches everything, really. I mean, what is so depressing, Eric, is that we, the ace predator, there isn't a single other species on this our wonderful planet that we do not treat badly, that we do not use for our own purposes. And it's just so sad. And all of this is restricting and compressing compassion and making people use singular compassion rather than dimension compassion, I think.
Now, you know, that brings us sort of to what happens with Harambe. You know, we've allowed ourselves to build systems where we put keystone species that are important around the world in little boxes all around the world. And, you know, one thing that we were talking about a lot with this movie is, you know, people have learned through movies. They learned that you shouldn't take a selfie with a dolphin. That was done by the Cove. People have learned, don't go to, or Blackfish, don't go see orca shows, don't go to SeaWorld, and we're hoping that people have this trigger alert. They see a dolphin, they see an orca, they know not to involve in that, and they see a gorilla playing an iPhone and they go, that's cute. Or they see a gorilla tapping on the glass and there's a baby on the other side and they're like, that's cute. When in fact it's so cruel. And
it's horrible.
We really hope that people can transfer over and start to understand that, through this movie. Because
I certainly think, Eric, that's going to help that concept an awful lot. And I do love the fact that a lot of the young people I speak to are very anti-zoos already. So they're picking something up from what is the messages that people like us are sending. And I think Blackfish and films like that did send the right message. It's just it's pretty slow, and people have short memories, and also we humans are so driven by our appetites rather than by our ethics, and that's because so often I talk to people, say for instance about cutting dairy out. I mean, dairy, which is one of the most disgusting elements of animal agriculture. I mean, it's quite appalling what happens, as you know yourself, in the dairy industry. And I say to people, why don't you try cutting dairy? I said, oh no, I can't. What can't you do? Well, I can't live without cheese. And I described to them the process of cheese and how on a dairy farm the milk is stolen from the cow, and all the horrible things that goes on around that journey. And they say, yes, but I've tried some vegan cheese and I don't like the way it tastes. And I say to them, well, I remember when I was young, I didn't like the taste of cabbage, or I didn't like the taste of tea or coffee, or I didn't like the taste of cheese when I was young. All I wanted to do was eat sweet things and have ice cream. But my taste changed as I got older, and it matured a bit. And the same thing applies with vegan cheese. There are some terrible vegan cheeses, but there are also some magnificent vegan cheeses. And all you've got to do is be patient and educate your palate, and also look to the point that if you eat a piece of vegan cheese, you're celebrating ahimsa. You're doing no harm. And then people say, oh, you're just a soggy liberal, aren't you? You're just a do-gooder, and all this. It's so boring, I like my cheese. I like my meat. You're not going to take my meat away from me. And I say, no, I'm not going to take your meat away from you. What I'm going to take away from you is the life that you've stolen, because it's not your meat. It's the body of a poor animal that's been slaughtered, so as you can call it your meat. I despair of human beings a lot of the time, but also I also have great love and admiration for those that do make major changes in their life and do fully, in a dimensioned way, understand just who we are, what we've achieved, what we're doing to our planet, how we can save it, and also how we can contribute to a better life, not only for us, but for every other species on the planet. It's going to make everything better, and it's going to make everything more interesting and richer, and not just corporations that become richer through slaughter. I mean, everyday human beings don't become richer through slaughter. It's only corporations that do. They get all the profit.
And right now, it's the easiest thing in the world is to be a vegan. It's simply making a choice at your grocery store.
Yeah.
And that choice, that's where does that choice come from? And the companies try to make you think that choice is, that it's your choice and that's all that matters, as opposed to the choice you make affects the choices that will affect the lives of so many other animals.
It will affect the lives of so many other animals, but also will affect the lives of so many other humans, because animal agriculture on the level, the intensive level that is being developed, is destroying the planet for everyone. And it also, if we think that, and this is, everyone knows 80% of the antibiotics that are produced in the world goes into the animal agriculture industry. And that's creating huge immunities in people who are eating lots of meat to antibiotics. So their immune system is being damaged. So, there are so many negatives to intensive animal agriculture. And yes, of course, it destroys the animal by producing the food that you want to give to the animal that's going to be destroyed, is destroying the planet. And ultimately, I think, destroying people's health. It's all a negative as far as I'm concerned. And also, I just love I just celebrate every day that I'm a vegan. I love it. I love the variety of food that I eat. And I have to say, I'm wonderful, because I've been a vegan now for, I suppose, about 12 or 14 years, is my digestion is the best it's ever been in my life. And I'm 77 now,
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference in how your body operates and works. And, I still talk to people about it. They still feel like I'm a weird alien because I'm a vegan and what do I eat and all these questions. But, they say, well, I'd rather have this thing now. And I say, yeah, but, you got to remember that even if you're only looking at it through your health, you are going to pay for whatever you're eating now later, whether it's the chemicals, whether it's just the fact that your body does not absorb it, does not need it, doesn't even want it, often rejects it, like we find out with milk and calcium. People have trained us for years to think that milk gives us calcium that is absorbed in our bones, and we find out it's the opposite, that milk helps leach calcium out of it.
Absolutely. So, it's extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah, that's probably one of the world's biggest kept secrets, isn't it?
Right. People destroy themselves willingly. And, it makes sense that people destroy their own world willingly, in a sense, because companies are telling them to do that. And, I think part of what we see right now is a reclaiming of our own, saying, let's make a world that makes sense from our minds and our hearts. Yes. And people are aligning more with that now. And I feel like you can feel a transition.
I hope so. I hope that's true. I really do hope that's true. I feel that whenever I go to, and I go to them a lot, to vegan sort of festivals or vegan markets, and what I love is the atmosphere. Everyone is happy. Yes. There's no meat violence, and don't you feel the same way? People are not aggressive. They're not violent in these places. And in the way that they are, if you go to a normal supermarket where everyone's elbowing you to get out of the way,
This is one of my absolute favorite spots right here. Amazing coffee and vegan goodies. And it just goes to show that people always say, I don't want to go vegan because I'm going to lose the taste that I love, chocolate and this and that. This particular stand right here shows you that you can have the tastiest food, the yummiest food, and you don't have to give up anything being vegan. If anything, you gain. You don't give up, you gain.
If you want to get some really, really great coffee and you follow the vegan markets in Surrey, then you want to come here to Four Fillies. Best coffee in Surrey.
Peter, why is it important for you to be vegan?
Because it connects my head with my heart. I have no obstruction that you get when you destroy animals for food. So that's why I'm vegan. It's the best lifestyle on the planet, most compassionate.
Vegan market we went to with you in England was so outstanding, and our friend,
lovely, yeah.
Camilla and the Four Fillies stand, they make beautiful vegan pastries that could turn anybody, and that's what I like, is that vegan outreach through the stomach is such an important thing, and but I loved it. Everybody I met there was pleasant, hilarious, funny, and caring. They were like, try this. You need to try, this is more organic. Here's why this is good for you. And it's like an education and a hub with everybody you meet.
Yeah, wonderful. It's wonderful. Love it.
Now, okay, so now I do want to talk a little bit about, so, we've really covered a lot about how perspective and mindset and aligning that with your heart and with compassion, love, and kindness can change the world on a day-to-day basis. Um, when it comes to the story of Harambe,
Mm-hmm.
what do you hope people can get out of it, or what do you hope, like, what about the story, I guess, really grabbed you, or caught your interest, or
See, it's such a kind of deception, the whole situation with Harambe, because there is huge confusion about whether Harambe was going to do any damage to that boy. And clearly that boy wasn't damaged anyway. So I hope that people could come out of the film with an increased respect for wild animals as not just being ornaments and things for us to look at, but as they are dimensioned creatures. Because when the boy fell in the water and Harambe grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and performed what he would do with a baby gorilla, he did to a human being. And the human being was unscathed, he wasn't hurt. I just wish that there had been more respect shown to Harambe and his life, rather than kill him quickly, in order to protect something that he wasn't going to damage anyway, as far as we can see. These are very difficult equations, because people will say, you're insane. Look at that big gorilla. That gorilla would break that little boy like a twig. And who you don't know, he may have drowned the boy or broken the boy's neck in the next second. You have no idea. But the truth is, yes, we don't know. But what the behavior that Harambe was exhibiting was not destructive behavior. It seemed to be protective and constructive. And so what would I learn from it? I would learn, firstly, what a stupid environment zoos are for wild animals. It doesn't teach you to respect other species, and I would want the world to start respecting our wildlife. And I think ultimately that it tells me, and I hope tells the world, that the worst environment for a beautiful creature like that beautiful gorilla is to put him in a prison, put him in a zoo. He should be doing, as we say at the beginning, he should be doing his job, being a gardener in the forest.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Well, I think that's the perfect spot to end it. I think it's a very, very important message. People start to understand that if we want to save the climate, we want to save the planet, we want to save everybody, even if we're just selfishly want to save ourselves, we have to save the animals that we are currently exploiting on multiple levels.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all to do with the soil. It's all to do with protecting the soil that makes up our planet so it remains rich. And the way to do that is to allow the planet to have a habitat that embraces dimensioned wildlife and not just concrete. I look forward to our next project, and I look forward to seeing you again before too long.
Yes, I can't wait to get back in touch with you in person. It really has been incredible to be able to connect and to be able to work together on these projects. And I think we have quite a few more, because we have a lot of topics to cover.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, my friend, take it easy.
Thank you, Peter. Good to see you. Take care.
Bye for now.
All right, everybody. Well, that was Peter Egan, an amazing, compassionate person, one of the most compassionate people I've ever met, and a vegan that fights for wild animals and for animals that are stuck in factory farming, is a vegan that sees both sides of things and asks us all to spend our day to day living compassionately, living lovingly, and living kindly in order to change the world for a better future for everybody. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining.